Okay? Nobody's a master. We have one master, and his name is Yahusha. And we have one Father. Okay? All right. And Yahusha says, don't call anybody Father. So the church comes up with a whole bunch of priests, and they call him Father. Anyway. Now listen to this one. And you guys think about it for a second and tell me what you think about this. And a man that is clean shall gather up the ashes of the heifer and lay them up outside the camp in a clean place, and it shall be kept for the congregation of the children of Israel for a water of sprinkling. It is a purification from chatat, from sin. Okay, so we look at it from the historical point of view. The red heifer is totally and completely burned up. They scoop the ashes up. They mix them with water. They keep this ash water in a clean place outside the camp. There's no clean places outside the camp. Okay? But they keep it in a clean place outside the camp to sprinkle on the people so that they can be cleansed from touching a dead body, because that's specifically what this is for, so that they can enter clean into the camp. Okay? But, first of all, and a man, okay, Ish, that is clean shall gather up the ashes of the parah. Okay? That from parar means something that violates, something that breaks us. How does a man that is clean gather up the ashes? Okay, the remains. Okay, now the ashes of the heifer are going to be dirty, are going to be unclean. Ashes from wood are not going to be unclean. Okay, why? The ashes from the heifer are the remains of a dead animal. Okay, so Ish has to be clean in order to gather the ashes of something that is self-destructive. What does that mean to you? Ish, if Ish is a representation of our physical ability to, let's use the word worship, study, pray. And praise an overrated word. My ability to sit down and have a conversation with my Elohim and hear from my Elohim. If I'm in a clean state of being, if my Ish is clean, if my worship is clean, then how does that deal with gathering up the remains of things that violate me or that may break me? Think about that. Come on. You can do it. Am I aware? How am I aware of my state of being that I am aware of what can put me into a broken state? How am I aware of the things that can cause me to become broken? How can I be aware of the things that violate me as a human being? How do I become aware? Huh? Torah. I follow the instructions. I look for the truth in these things. Okay? I look at the things that would make me unclean. Okay? But then it says, and lay them outside the camp in a clean place. Where would I lay these things outside the camp in a clean place? If the para aduma represents something that violates my humanity, that breaks my humanness, where do I lay this up outside the camp? If a clean person recognizes something wrong and puts it in a clean place outside the camp, what is a word that we use for that? Teshuvah. Okay? I must be able to make teshuvah. The para aduma, the blood of Yahusha, allows me to make teshuvah. It sprinkles me clean from having touched a dead body. What is a dead body? I'm getting into next week's lesson, but let's think about it. What is a dead body other than the obvious? I've touched a corpse. Somebody's died. I've had to move that person outside the camp. Now I'm unclean. Now I can go and take a shower in para aduma ash and water, and I'm good. What are dead bodies in your life? Dead
weight holding you back.
Good. Could be dead weight holding me back. Burdens, worthless thoughts, false beliefs, anger, depression, anxiety. Anything that weighs you down is something that keeps you in a state of uncleanliness. What do? I have to turn to the para aduma. Not turn to the thing that breaks me, but I have to turn to the broken man who gave himself fully for me. And who was that? Yahusha. What did Yahusha do in John? He took the vinegar. Or did he heal the chametz in my life? If I'm a bowl full of chametz, then Yahusha, as the para aduma, heals the thing that I'm full of. And as a clean man, as a clean ish, is a person who seeks truth, seeks the right things in his life, or her life, then I'm moving these things that break me outside the camp, but I put them in a clean place. What is it putting him in a clean place? What do I do with things that depress me or things that have hurt me? That's a better one. Things that have hurt me, and I place them outside of the camp in a clean place. And I'll give you a hint. There's a saying: fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, or fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So what are the things that I put outside the camp in a clean place? Okay. I become aware of those things that hurt me. Okay? I don't destroy them, because what happens if I destroy? I can forgive. And the adage is forgive and forget. And I should forgive and forget. But I don't always. Okay? I make a mistake. I make an error. I make a bad judgment. And I'm faced with the exact same thing again. And I've forgotten what I did last time that got me in trouble. Then I'm going to make the same call. I have to take those ashes that keep me and place them in a clean place outside the camp. I don't want to do it again, but I want to be able to reference it in case I'm ever hit with the same situation again. Okay? The Torah gives us really, really cool ideas inside of things like the red heifer. Now we know the red heifer translates us back to Yahusha, and Yahusha becomes the red heifer, and the blood of Yahusha washes us so that we can be inside the gate and not stuck outside the gate. But when we look at it from the point of view of things that violate our humanity, we have to store in a clean place, but not necessarily a place that we want to go. We don't want to go outside the camp. But when we are outside the camp, I'm reminded of what I did so that I don't stay outside the camp. Does that make sense? I hope. All right. And it will be kept for the congregation of the children of Israel for a water of sprinkling. It is a purification from chatat. All right, so if Bnei Yisrael, if we look at Bnei Israel instead of saying Bnei Israel, children of Israel. We look at that as Bana Yisrael, the restored, those who are restored and established in Sar El, the authority of Elohim. Okay? If I am restored and established in the authority of Elohim, and I am a community, we talked about us as a community several years ago, and maybe we need to look at that study again maybe here in a couple of months, the assemblies of the revelation. Y'all remember that? Different aspects of who we are. Okay? So if I am a community within myself and I'm restored and established because I dwell within the authority of Elohim, then I have a water for purification from Hatat. What is the water that I have for purification from Hatat? Who was Yahusha? He was the living water. What does Yochanan, what does John chapter 1 verse 1 say? In the beginning was... So who was Yahusha? The Word. What do we have as a sprinkling of water that cleans us from Hatat? We have Yahusha. We have the Word. The Torah is often called Yasha. It's called the deliverance of Yahuwah. It's called Yahusha in a few places in the Tanakh. But it's mixed with the ashes and it's mixed with the water. So now we go to a deeper level of understanding. Now we're getting into a solid level of understanding that water is a representation of the Word, but ash is a representation of the Spirit. Now, if I mix those two together, do I have something that will keep me in a clean state of being so that I remain inside the camp and I become aware of Hatat? If I am connected to Elohim by and through the Ruach HaKodesh, and I have the Word right in front of me, because we can all buy one of these for next to nothing, and we keep it, and we mark in it, and we read it, I don't have an excuse to become unclean. And I don't have an excuse to allow my relationship with my Elohim to falter, because I am restored and established in the authority of Elohim, that when I do begin to Hatat, when I do begin to stray off to this side or to that side, I have a sprinkling that I can put on to purify me. In other words, I have the Word and the Spirit that I can turn to, because I am a clean man that is clean, that gathers up the ashes of the heifer and lays them outside in a clean place. I am aware of what the Word and the Spirit is saying to me, so that I'm able to remain clean. Now, when we look at this from a historical point of view, they had the water mixed with the ash. Someone goes and they find Bob, whose rheumatism got to him and he's dead, so they have to take poor Bob out of his tent and they walk him and they put him outside the camp. They're unclean. I can go over here to the handy-dandy Para Aduma water and I can wash up real good, and now I'm purified from that uncleanliness of touching a dead body, and I can go back into the camp. The priest, the Cohen, he needs to go and minister into the temple, but he just happens to touch a dead body, because we're going to read anti-dead body spray. Goes and he washes himself, and now he can go into the tabernacle and minister. Okay? It's a purification. It's a water of purification. But when we look at it as an application point of view, it's the Word and the Spirit that purify us. But it's also Yahusha that made it possible for us to be healed, to be made well of chometz. That's what it tells us in John. That the bowl stands there for vinegar, but Yahusha is the one that cleans out the bowl. Okay? All right. And we go down, and he that gathers the ashes of the heifer shall wash his clothes and be unclean until the evening. All right. So what do we get? How many times a day do we change our clothes? Physically, we probably change them, if I'm outside working, I probably change them 2 or 3 times. Okay. Normally, on a clean day like today, I get up, I put it on, I'm good to go until and, okay. How many times do we spiritually change our clothes every day? And this is something to be aware of, okay? He that gathers the ashes of the heifer shall wash his clothes and be unclean until the evening. How do I know that I'm unclean? Until the evening. Erev, okay? If the ayin is the root of Erev, and ayin represents perception, then when do I clean my clothes? Okay, here if I consider the ashes of the heifer to be something that is the burnt up remains of something that's dead, that is unclean to start with, if I have gotten into something that has violated my ethics, my morals, or I have accepted a falsehood, what do I have to do in order to change? Huh? I have to remove it. Before I can remove it, before I can make teshuvah, what do I have to do?
Repent.
Huh?
Repent.
All right, before I can repent, what do I have to do? Huh? I have to recognize it. I have to erev. I have to perceive it. I have to realize it. When I realize it, then I can move to repenting. I can have the intent of making teshuvah. But what stops me from making teshuvah? What leaves me in the state of repenting? And this is something that kills some of us. Indecision. I still don't think I'm wrong. But I know I'm wrong. I know I'm wrong, but I don't want to admit I'm wrong. Okay? What was one of these things that we talked about in the beginning that we got from last time? Becoming aware of when Yahuwah Elohim shows us that we're outside the camp. We must be willing to die to the flesh and our evil inclination that feeds it. Going up, it's Yahuwah Elohim that teaches and ministers to us when we allow His presence to surround and protect us, when we become willing to surrender our evil inclination and the opinions that we allow to influence us that violate our humanity, and the pride that we refuse to acknowledge while refusing to see the bondage in which it puts us. This is something that we pulled out of the Hebrew in our last study. Okay, so if I look at this, if I gather the ashes, I have to be unclean until evening. I'm going to be unclean until evening. I'm going to remain unclean until I realize that I have to make teshuvah. I'll remain unclean, even if I repent, I'm still unclean. Because, remember, there's a difference between repenting and actually taking action. I can have the intent to take action, but until I actually do something about it, then I'm still in the state of uncleanliness. I have to be that way until evening, until I realize it. Okay, now if we look at it from a historical point of view, the dude has just touched the ashes from a dead animal. He's unclean, and he's going to be unclean until evening. Okay? Then he will be declared clean, and he can go about his regular doing his thing. Okay? Never once does it say that they're going to be unclean and outside the camp. They can still come into the camp. They're just declared unclean within the camp. Okay? Is that something that is unusual? Not really. Because a woman can be nida and still remain within the camp. She just has to remain isolated from the rest of the community. This person, he's just gathered it, he's washed himself up, he's changed his clothes, but he's isolated from the community from the historical point of view. We're looking at what it tells us right now. How do we apply this today? Okay? So none of us are going to go take a bath in water mixed with cow ashes. That doesn't matter what color the cow was, right? All right. So, and it shall be to the children of Israel and to the stranger that resides among them forever a statute forever. Look at, well, if you look on in the Hebrew, the second line, the short line, second word over from the left, it says lehukat, lehukat, a statute, a specific decree. This is something that stands alone. It's one of a kind. Okay? And this one of a kind decree will be with you forever. Is it with us today? Well, yeah, because Yahusha became the para aduma. We don't have to go out and take a bath in ash water. Yahusha became the ash water. Yahusha, the blood, is what became what we are cleansed in from the broken human who gave himself totally in order to cleanse us, to bring us inside the camp. And we saw this within the olive faith that we looked at on Tuesday. Okay. So in these verses, we have to take into account that our status in life, or whether we identify as a Jew or a Christian, is not relevant. Listen to what it says. And it shall be to the children of Israel and to the stranger that resides among them for a statute forever. Okay? Doesn't make a difference if you're a Jew, if we want to consider the children of Israel to be the Jewish people, and the stranger that resides among them, all the things that came from the Jewish people, which includes Christianity. I can call myself a Jew, I can call myself a Christian. All I'm doing is I'm putting a label on myself. To have a relationship with my Elohim doesn't require me to put a label on myself. It requires me to be Bana Yisrael, restored and established in the authority of Elohim. It requires me to be the Ish that is clean, who is willing to recognize when he is not clean, and then willing to change when he's not clean. So it doesn't make a difference as what you identify with. Okay? We have a lot of problems today with people identifying as things. We all have issues that violate our relationship with Elohim. We must be willing to eliminate those issues and recognize that we are unclean before we can change our clothes. Okay? This is all what we see in this and what we can take from this to use. Sure, we can read it from a topical point of view. The priest has to change clothes. He's just killed an animal. He's got blood all over himself. He's touched a dead animal. He's dirty. He needs to wash up, change clothes, and he's still going to be unclean. He has to separate himself from the community until evening. Then he can go back out and have, lunch at the local Children of Israel Camp Cafe. The person that burns the red heifer, he's just touched a dead animal. He's just become unclean. He needs to go, wash himself up, and then he can go and be unclean inside the camp until it's evening time, and then he can go about his business. The man that messes with the ashes, even if he's clean, he's messed with the ashes. Now he's unclean. He'll be unclean until evening. We look at it from the topical point of view, then he becomes clean. But when we look at it, what we just looked at, the application to ourselves, it's all about being aware of our humanity and how our humanity is either connected to or not connected to our Elohim. Whether I am aware of his presence or am I not aware of his presence. And that's what we need to become aware of in this study. All right. And with that, we can say grooviness has been achieved, and say,